Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. You will hear from Vivek Ramaswamy, Musk, and others in a couple of seconds. CNN. So let's read the CNN article, and I will explain to you why I don't think it's obviously not Musk or the advisor within the. So it's neither of the two men within the photo. So the person giving information to various individuals to try to undermine nominations, whether it's the Hesketh nomination or the Gates nomination or others, that person is not Elon Musk or the advisor on the screen. The story here, CNN Politics, heated confrontation between Elon Musk and Trump advisor. Axios reports. So the interesting thing is, my 2 cents or my viewpoint is that they could very well have acted out some kind of argument to try and see how that argument would be reported in the press. So if you have 3 or 4 or 5 people in a room, and President Trump, Elon Musk, this advisor thinks that there might be somebody giving information to CNN, for example, or to Axios, or to whatever publication. They might pretend to have an argument or disagreement, or a big, a big debate or argument. They might go into this phony argument, and then they can, from the people within that room, decipher, well, okay, it has to be one of these people, and if it's the 2 or the 3 or 4 people in the room, at least you've limited or taken off names or individuals that weren't in the room. Now, the people in the room could have told someone else, and then that other person could have told a publication, so you wouldn't, in that situation, truly find out. But this is just an example, I think, of Elon Musk, President Trump, his top advisors, trying to find out who is giving information. So again, could be a phony, fake debate or argument or heated disagreement, and just to see who within that room or who within that, office relayed the information. Okay? That's just one possibility. Here's why this is taking place. This is taking place because Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Pete Hesketh, Matt Gaetz are going to completely upend business as usual. And media wants to make this as difficult as possible, and perhaps there are people within Trump's campaign that can't be trusted. And so media wants to find the dirt and, the salacious, they want to portray chaos and mayhem. So this just simply could be an effort, because what you're going to see now is a complete overhaul. Business will not be done as usual. You'll probably get tens of thousands, easily tens of thousands of federal employees that won't be federal employees after 4 years or even after 2 years. By the way, hit subscribe to this channel. My super chat, thank you so very, very much. Let's get started.
Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, is aiming to wipe out unnecessary government spending. Here's some cuts that they could consider. Check this out. Over $500,000 from the National Institutes of Health awarded to Russian labs to study cats walking on treadmills. How about $39 million to oversee DEI efforts? $50 million, I'm serious, to study monkeys, testing how they performed while on meth and injecting them with female hormones. $1.3 billion in checks sent by the federal government to people who have already passed away, and $7 billion wasted on empty federal buildings. Now, Doge is beginning to recruit. They issued this tweet saying, in part, quote, "We need super high IQ small government revolutionaries willing to work 80 hours a week for unglamorous cost-cutting jobs." Here to discuss is CEO of the watchdog Open the Books, John Hart. Hey, John, thanks for being with us this morning. Let's talk about Doge. We just walked through some of the more ridiculous ways the federal government spends money. But what we really want to know is, can Doge make significant percentage-wise cuts to getting a more efficient federal government?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. The answer is absolutely. This is a brand new move or brand new commission, but this is already a movement. The American people are demanding more control over their tax dollars and their own destiny, because every dollar saved in Washington is a dream realized somewhere in America. So what we've seen is, for decades, politicians have been expanding federal agencies, but Doge is about expanding your agency and your ability to pursue the American dream on your terms. So what we've pointed out at Open the Books is we've built the biggest database of spending in history. Mm-hmm. We have 10 billion lines of code, and you can very quickly get to $200 or $300 billion through some of the things you just pointed out. We can go after things like duplication in the federal government, improper payments, Medicare fraud, getting rid of DEI. We did some great reports on DEI and Department of Education, HHS.
Right.
And so once you do that, then what I think Elon Musk and Vivek are going to point out are new efficiencies, ways to use technology.
So really quickly, when you get a story reported by CNN that was initially reported by another publication, and all of these publications either lean heavily towards the Democratic Party, or they're either an extension of the Democratic Party, or there's some kind of they feign neutrality, or there's some kind of they pretend that they're not extensions of the Democratic Party, but really they're there to kind of undermine Trump and prop up the Democratic Party, which is what most of media have become. Whenever you get this type of story, it's trying to cause mayhem, chaos. It's trying to make it difficult for Trump to nominate people, to get his nominations through the Senate. The great thing is that, number one, nobody cares anymore. Okay, 8 years ago, when Trump defeated Clinton, media was very influential in American politics, and people did not know how to react. People did not know how to react. Now, again, I think that the informant, is not the two gentlemen on this. Well, not the three gentlemen, not me, but not Elon Musk or his top advisor to the right here. Again, so I tried to kind of give you a long-winded explanation in the beginning of this as a preface to what you were going to see, but it's not Elon Musk, it's not his top advisor, even though it's been reported that, and it has been reported that there was this huge heated debate and argument between Musk and his top advisor. Number one, it's likely nonsense. So I'll give you, before we get back to the analysis here of wasteful government spending, I'll try to streamline what I was telling you in the beginning of the live stream. Number one, it's not Elon Musk or or Trump's top advisor. It's not the two men that you see here in the CNN article. Number two, it's very likely an attempt by Musk or President Trump or this top advisor to find out who is the actual informant leaking information. Number three, one way to find out would be a meeting, an impromptu meeting that nobody knows about, okay, that happened perhaps last night or today, with a small number of people in the room, where only that small number of people could have known about the argument. And this way, like I said, the argument could have been completely fabricated, a theatrical performance, right? Just to see who would give that information. So there's 2 or 3 people in the room. They get into this fabricated theatrical performance of a heated debate, an argument. Suddenly, CNN picks up the story from another publication, and then you can kind of narrow it down to, all right, it's this individual. It's one of the people within the room that saw this fabricated theatrical performance unfold. That's not foolproof either, but I'm just saying that's probably what took place. So they're probably a lot closer to finding out who's giving information just based on how this was reported, when it was reported.
Like AI, to take those savings much further. And then once you win the support and trust of the American people, again, with this movement, this bottom-up movement, you can begin to look at these bigger ticket items like entitlement spending that you really need to think about reforming to get at $2 trillion.
Well, I want to share with the audience, you can take a look at the way that federal government spending has grown since, I believe it's since the 1960s up through today. And it's just, it's beyond inflationary. It is explosive. Vivek, for example, has talked about things like the number of federal employees obviously being inefficient and overbloated. But he's even talked about, Social Security numbers, every other, odd and even, letting people go within the federal government. And whether or not that's the mechanism or not, the point is there needs to be significant cost cutting, right, significant beyond just identifying the absurdities. Can we scale this thing down to efficiency?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Look, my boss, former boss, Tom Coburn, was on the Simpson-Bowles Debt Commission. And he was able to get rid of earmarks and actually help bring about the only spending cut in American history since the end of the Korean War. And he didn't have Elon Musk on his side. He didn't have Vivek on his side, or even a president that was supporting what we were doing 10 or 15 years ago.
Right.
So when you have the American people at your back and you have Elon Musk, turning the bully pulpit up to 11, they can go much farther than we ever thought we could go 10 or 15 years ago. And look, and I think you have to think of this. This is not a demolition project. This is a restoration and renovation project. Imagine buying an old home that's been poorly updated, has bad insulation, and it was owned by a hoarder that had all the stuff. People can relate to that project of let's renovate it. Let's bring back the original splendor of what this American idea is. And that's what Doge is all about.
Well, Musk's role in this, I suspect, has to be bigger than simply making recommendations to Congress. It's going to have to find some accountability or enforcement mechanism for members of Congress who don't choose to walk down the path of efficiency. So we'll keep up with what he does on an ongoing basis. We appreciate you being with us this morning, John Hart.
You bet. Thank you.
So again, it's not the individuals within. I don't think it's the individuals within. Obviously, it's not Elon Musk, and I don't think it's his top advisor. I think that it's being reported that there was a heated confrontation, CNN heated confrontation between Elon Musk and Trump advisor. Another publication reports. I think it's an attempt to find out who the informant is, who the person is that's leaking the information, and. Because I don't think that anyone would be left within Trump's second term. Like, let's say there's a person in Trump's first term. If they're invited back, I don't think that they would be detrimental, or they would be viewed as a detrimental, a person who could give information to media. I could be wrong, but like I said, I think it's just an attempt to find out who, and I think they're probably closer. The more you see these stories where this is chaos within Trump's campaign, that gets them closer to the actual true, real story. This is why you have these types of articles written, this kind of gossip and hearsay. They know that the nominations are going to be confirmed, like I've been telling you. They're going to confirm Matt Gaetz and Hesketh and everybody. They're going to confirm everybody in the Senate. And they can go and confirm through recess appointments in the House. There's no way to stop Trump, especially because he won the popular vote, every battleground state, the Senate, the House, the executive branch, and the presidency, and he has the Supreme Court. So there's no way to stop Trump. The reason that the The reason that President Obama was prevented from utilizing recess appointments in 2014 was that there was a belief that the Senate wasn't truly on recess. Conrad, thank you. Paul, thank you to my super chat. Thank you so very, very much. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. But we have Corey Lewandowski here, top Trump official. He has some really, really interesting things to say about the Matt Gaetz appointment and the Pete Hegseth appointment.
Well, is there a possibility that if he can't get enough votes, that the president-elect will install Gaetz through a recess appointment, even though your detractors say that violates the Constitution?
Look, I believe that's a Senate protocol issue where Senate Majority Leader Thune would have to go into recess and make those appointments. I know that conversation has been had in the sense of Senator Thune, when he was running for Majority Leader, said he was open to Senate appointments during a recess process. I haven't spoken to Senator Thune about that, but I can tell you this. I have had the chance to speak with former Congressman and designee Gaetz. I know that we are all in as a team for him and full court press ahead and holding senators accountable, particularly with Elon Musk's resources and Donald Trump's political capital that we will use to make sure every Trump nominee gets through.
Well, Elon Musk has plenty of resources. My former Fox colleague, Pete Hegseth, highly decorated Afghanistan and Iraq War veteran, combat veteran, is drawing media criticism because he's never run a large organization.
By the way, Pete Hegseth, Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Sean Duffy, Transportation Secretary, you'll hear from in a second, all of these, John Radcliffe, all of these individuals, and hopefully soon he picks a very important position for the new bureau director. But all of these individuals, including especially President Trump and J.D. Vance, do not need media. Okay, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, they all live and breathe media. It took 3 weeks for media to topple Biden's candidacy, his campaign. 3 weeks. He was not leaving. He said he wasn't leaving. He promised he wasn't leaving. He was staying, man. I'm staying, man. But it took 3 weeks. He experienced every single day what Trump has experienced for 7-8 years. And Trump only got stronger. Okay? They've reached a point of diminishing returns against Trump years back. The more vitriol, the more venom, the more of these gossipy, type of headlines. Oh, huge heated debate between Elon Musk and top advisor. Probably never really happened. Even if it did, it was just an act to try to weed out and to try to decipher, who is being disloyal or who is an informant or who's giving information to the press. But they don't need media. Trump doesn't need media. Tulsi Gabbard doesn't need media. Elon Musk, RFK Jr., they don't need media. They're admired and respected and beloved, even with the negative media attention. The people who are in the publications and cable stations throughout this country that serve as an extension of the Democratic Party don't have influence anymore to harm Trump's administration, to create this, these clouds above Trump's administration, to kind of ruin his second term the way they did his first term. It's not going to work out. The first time around, there was a concerted effort by intel agencies, media, Hollywood, you name it, social media, algorithms to try and destroy Trump's administration. And at the end of the day, they did just enough damage for Biden to become president. Well, that world is no longer here. We have a completely different world, and almost certainly Trump knows who to trust, who not to trust. This is, I think, one example. This heated argument with Musk and the advisors, one example of how they're finding out who leaks the information.
Let alone a massive Pentagon bureaucracy with soldiers around the world. And he said he's for such things as women shouldn't be in combat. Is that criticism fair?
I don't think it's fair. Listen, that's the old way of thinking. It's the old model. If you took Pete's name off of this nomination and saw a Princeton graduate, a Harvard graduate, a man who has multiple accommodations, an infantry officer who served multiple tours of duty, and said, this is a person we want to lead our military, and his name wasn't Pete Hegseth, the left would be praising this as a historic endeavor, as a historic recommendation. And that's what Pete Hegseth is going to bring. Someone who's going to completely and fundamentally reform the military-industrial complex, who is more concerned about making money than taking care of our men and women in uniform.
RFK Jr. is drawing heat from the media. That's not a news flash for pushing disputed or debunked theories about Wi-Fi causes cancer, vaccines cause autism, take the fluoride out of water systems. He got this job in exchange for endorsing Donald Trump. The media trotting out doctors who say he's dangerous. Does that worry you?
You know what's more worrisome to me is a guy like Anthony Fauci potentially being nominated as a Secretary of Health and Human Services. You know, if you ask those quote-unquote
So we saw this 4 years ago, especially. The censorship, and 4 years ago was the height of information that misinforms, or information that was a lie by omission. What the trust and safety team did at then Twitter, or what CNN did, was they ignored any dissent. They ignored experts who disagreed with a fabricated consensus. So when you say there's a consensus that disagrees with RFK Jr., media is not telling you about all the experts, all the top officials throughout the world who agree with him, who think he's fantastic. And you see what's taking place with our country. You can compare our country to others throughout the world. And there is a reason why we're not as, we'll just say, we're not, we'll just be algorithmically friendly. We're not as happy, let's say, yet we're just as wealthy or much wealthier, but we're not as happy. And there's a reason for that. And part of the reason is what RFK Jr. is talking about.
Food products that are being served, if you're in this country or in a different, you bet I do. So it's time to look at that and make America healthy again.
Corey, I've got about half a minute. Isn't President Trump nominating these people to do what he wants done, no matter how much controversy it unleashes?
Well, of course. Listen, this is Donald Trump's administration. This is Donald Trump's party. And this is Donald Trump's Washington, D.C. Him coming to Washington, D.C. with a mandate that was given to him by the American people is to go and bring fundamental and wholesale change to this bloated bureaucracy, whether that's through DOGE, which I think is my kid's favorite acronym now, DOGE, right? The Government Accountability Office.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's amazing. Look, we're going to find hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars of wasteful spending, and we're going to get rid of it. And that's what Donald Trump has pledged, and he's going to fulfill these campaign promises because that's what the American people expect.
Corey Lewandowski, thanks very much for.
This is very interesting also. In addition, you're going to probably find more of these kind of these headlines. Oh, there's a big argument at Mar-a-Lago, or because Mar-a-Lago now is is valued higher than ever. When you heard about the assessment within the New York trials, I mean, you have to laugh. And then, of course, the fact-checking is obsessive and petulant. Oh, the court did not use the $17 million. They didn't find out the $17 million valuation themselves. No, but they used a tax assessment. They didn't have to use an old tax assessment, $15 to $17 million. The court had discretion not to use a public tax assessment. They could have simply asked a real estate agent, well, what's Mar-a-Lago worth? Well over $1 billion.
Meanwhile, real estate demand in Palm Beach hitting a fever pitch after Donald Trump's resounding victory. Our next guest represents roughly 1/3 of Palm Beach waterfront property market. Joining me now is senior luxury real estate advisor in Palm Beach, senior luxury real estate advisor at Premier Estate Properties, and top Palm Beach realtor Margit Brandt. Margit, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. You've been churning out lots of sales there in Palm Beach. How would you assess the market today?
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for having me. Our market has been very strong. I think post-election, there's most certainly been a Trump bump. Leading up to any election, sometimes there's a bit of a pause where people want clarity. They want to understand what's happening. But now with election clarity and with Trump in office, we have seen, even in the last week since the election, we've seen 100 million of properties go pending. We just put another 25 million pending yesterday. So the market has been strong, and specifically in the last week, strong.
Now, Margit, you say Trump's Mar-a-Lago property is valued between $1 billion and $1.5 billion, and that it could fetch up to $2 billion with the elimination of deed restrictions. Trump bought that property for about...
So this is how unfair and absurd the attempts at hurting Trump were in New York. One of the courts said that the valuation was about 15 to $17 million. Then you get the fact-checking articles. This is why nobody trusts media, because they're so petulant and they lie by omission. So they'll say the court in New York never decided that they never valued Trump's Mar-a-Lago at 17 million. False. 17,000 Pinocchios. Red light blinking. Pinocchio. Lie. No, don't vote for Trump. He's deceiving you again. And then the reality is they used a tax assessment. A property tax. I believe it was the property tax. Okay. His property tax years back was 15 to 17 million. They didn't have to use that. That's not the valuation. Any rebuttal that says, they didn't value it at 17 million. Yeah, they used the property tax, and they used that property tax as a way to deceive people into thinking that Trump overinflated Mar-a-Lago. You see, it's only 17, and then the headlines throughout the apoplectic, morally superior media, deceitful headline of Trump, his property is only worth 17 million. And then you read, and it's like, there's a tax assessment, but it's really 1 to 1.5 billion. I mean, he's a two-term president. Even before all of this, he was basically a walking embodiment, personification of Americana. You can dislike him all you want. He's a billionaire who became a two-term president despite his own political party and especially the Democratic Party wanting to ruin him every second of the past 8 years. And he still won despite overwhelming 99% negative media coverage. He's a personification of Americana. He's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics, and he's a two-term president. So obviously there's historic value here. I mean, 200 years from now, 300, 1,000 years from now, whatever, people are going to say, okay, that's where that's where Donald Trump lived. So this is a part of American history. Yeah, it's worth more than 17 million.
About $10 million back in 1985 and put millions into renovations. Margit, you listed this property in the past. You've also listed a property across the street for rent. I want you to tell us more about Trump's Florida listings and their valuations. But first, Mark Tepper, we were just talking about this during the commercial break. This was the question. for one of the attacks on President Trump by Letitia James.
Yeah, and she claimed that it was only worth $18 million, which I think anyone with a brain inside their skull realized that was way understated. But yeah, that was the claim against Trump, was that he, quote unquote, overinflated the value of his properties to secure financing to grow his wealth. I'd love to hear what this is actually worth.
Exactly. You're in the business and you're valuing it at what? She said 18 million.
Well, I mean, if we take a look at Mar-a-Lago, let's start here, Maria. The guest house alone is worth 75 to 100 million. If you take a look at Palm Beach Island waterfront land, right? And keep in mind, we're a small island. We're only 12 miles long, half a mile wide. So it's not a big market. Scarcity is a real thing for us. We only have 2,500 homes on this island. So if you take into account waterfront land pricing, which the average is about 1,600 per foot. We've seen some sales on the ocean as high as 2,000 per foot. But you know, if you take a look at Mar-a-Lago, it's 20 acres. And for example, we just sold the most expensive property ever sold in the U.S., a private island here in Palm Beach for $152 million. Most expensive sale so far in the country this year. That went for $152 million. If you do some very simple math, $152 million times 10, which equates to the 20 acres of Mar-a-Lago, you're at $1.5 billion. That's not taking into account the 100,000 square feet of house that he has on the land. It's similar frontage, so that's $500 million of house. So $1.5 billion of land plus $500 million of house, you're at $2 billion, in my opinion. Even if you short, say that it's really, more than 1.5 or 1.75, the 18 million evaluation was so far off base and clearly done by someone who has no understanding of Palm Beach Island real estate or its pricing.
Well, I mean,
And then we're not even getting to I think he has millions of shares in Truth Social. So everything he touches becomes just this, everything he does in terms of business makes hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. Okay. Democrats, media, they have tried to say that he didn't pay taxes. Well, he was never indicted. There was never even an issue of whether he broke the law. Democrats complain about taxes. They pretend they're morally superior, and they don't change the tax code because billionaires give them funding. So they're not changing the tax code. He did nothing wrong. You used to get these articles from the New York Times. We found out that Trump, he didn't pay his taxes. Yes, he did. Oh, yes, he did. Real estate is real estate. That's why like President Trump, Warren Buffett, real estate and equities, the stock market, it's a completely different ballgame in terms of taxes compared to what how most Americans pay their taxes. So you're not going to see perhaps what the average person feels a billionaire should pay because of the tax code. But he was paying his taxes. Almost everything you heard about Trump, from he's an authoritarian to, he's a bad businessman, is a lie. The authoritarian thing, you'd have to be a complete and utter imbecile. You have to be completely ignorant of history to think that Trump is an authoritarian. A man who signed prison reform legislation, is the anti-war choice, wants to limit and doesn't want any invasions, wants to bring home Americans from endless military conflict. So authoritarians invade, they incarcerate. So it was Biden who wrote the part of the crime bill that incarcerated people for the same substance that Hunter was using, but in a different form. And that not only led to mass incarceration, but a disparity in incarceration rates and sentencing. So it was the Democrats with their penchant for censorship and their complete and utter disregard for endless military conflict. Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, all the Bush Republicans wanted Kamala Harris. How is Trump the authoritarian? I mean, again, you have to be the biggest imbecile on the planet. You have to be completely ignorant of history to think that Trump is an authoritarian because he's mean, because he says mean things, he's rude. Democrats are vicious and mean and rude through hit pieces, for example. in numerous publications, respected publications like The Atlantic and others, that will literally quote Trump based on hearsay gossip, which is called journalism. Trump said this. Well, how do you know he said? Is there an audio? Is there any evidence? Oh, no. He said this. He said, and there's no evidence. Now it's just whatever Trump is said to have stated is now gossip, hearsay in the form of journalism. And you look at the authoritarians of the 30s, 40s, they're not known for their tweets. I mean, you have to be completely ignorant of history. Authoritarians disarm citizens. Who wants to? Oh, that's right. The Democrats want to disarm citizens. Authoritarians censor, silence speech and debate. Oh, who did that 4 years ago? Oh, that's right. Democrats. Authoritarians want to invade countries or allow endless military conflict or fund military. Oh, that's right. Who wants to do that? Oh, Democrats. Who's the least militant? Trump. Who signed prison reform legislation? Trump. Who doesn't care? Who doesn't want any kind of restrictions pretty much on thinking and social media? Oh, Trump. Trump Republicans want complete discussion on the internet. It's Democrats who want to curtail all types of discussion. So we can go on. I mean, authoritarians have this allegiance towards their political party who disowns friends and family. There's no more despotic or authoritarian thing than disowning a friend because you in the most absurd, outlandish, stupid manner, you've conflated morals with political disagreements. Okay, what's taking place at the border is the height of immorality. But if you're too stupid and ignorant to understand what's going on, and you don't know that the Democratic Party has presided over human rights atrocities, well, ignorance is bliss. Everything, you're the protagonist of your miserably failed theatrical performance. That's why Trump won the House, the Senate, the popular vote, every battleground state, the presidency. He has the Supreme Court because Democrats do preside over catastrophe after human rights catastrophe. They don't know about it, nor do they care. Do they care about the lives lost in invasions around the world or what's taking place in the southern geographic region of our country because of their policies or their lack of enforcement of the law? They don't care. Where's AOC looking at the chain-linked fence now? She doesn't care. What? Any protest about the millions of barrels of strategic petroleum reserves that Biden flooded the country with? Because I thought they're supposed to love the environment. Oh, that's right. They don't care. Anyway, let's continue.
It's more than that. I mean, these valuations can be quantified, right? I mean, like, we're talking to one of the leading real estate people in Palm Beach. You know, I mean, Letitia James could have gotten those numbers.
She could have gotten those numbers.
How does she get away with saying that he overstated it and it's actually worth $18 million?
Well, let me just ask, what would have happened if Kamala Harris was in office and her unrealized capital gains went into effect? What would they value it? They value it $18 million or $1.5 billion? I'm wondering.
Yeah. So that's a question for you, Mark Ed. What about those unrealized gains taxes that Kamala Harris wanted to put in place and higher taxes? Would that have put a freeze on the market?
Oh, my God. I mean, I'm so glad you asked about that. If I could tell you, Maria, how many people sent me that about the unrealized gains, I mean, that would have been an absolute disaster. And only someone who hasn't run a business would come up with something like that. So, I mean, that would have been terrible. But we're grateful because we have some real, business minds behind Trump. We have some of the most brilliant minds in business, like Elon Musk and Howard Lutnick and Bill Ackman. And I think people are super excited to have, not D.C. bureaucrats, but business leaders that I really think this is an exciting time for our country, and it's without a doubt going to be good for the Palm Beach market.
Democrats wanted to tax unrealized capital gains. So if your stock went up and you didn't sell it, or your investment property went up and you didn't sell it, and then they say, well, it's only for people who make more than $400,000 a year. It's like, well, yeah, that there were reports that that's not accurate, and how do we know that? And even if, let's say, you make over $400,000 and you work hard, okay, why should you pay a tax when you haven't even sold your property? your investment, your stock, whatever, the car that is worth $1 million. Why would you pay a hypothetical tax, on what it's worth now had you sold it? Only Democrats would come up with this.
Thank you, Vivek. Good. He's working with Elon on efficiency. They're working on efficiency, among other things, and they're going to be saving a lot of money and making our country stronger and better. And
so really quickly, Sean Duffy. Trump named Sean Duffy as his pick for transportation secretary. Let's listen to Sean Duffy right now.
We've got Sean Duffy, the Bottom Line co-host, here with us. Let's talk about this. How's this going to...
Welcome, Sean.
We'll start there.
You guys. Here we go. That was a great intro.
We'll start there, and we'll talk about, there's just so much happening, and it's true Trump style.
I can already tell you he'll do a better job than Biden's transportation secretary.
It's coming out all the time, yes, day and night, fast, rapid fire. But Senate Majority Leader, thoughts?
So, listen, John Thune worked with Mitch McConnell, right? And so Mitch was not seen as the most conservative senator and didn't drive the Senate in the most conservative way. But Mitch McConnell knows how to operate the Senate, and John Thune worked with him in that capacity. So to navigate the Senate's important. I bet that, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure that Donald Trump met with all three candidates and got a commitment that they were going to help push the agenda forward. And because of that, Donald Trump didn't weigh in on this race. He let the senators had their secret ballots and let the chips fall where they may. And I think, again, that's because of that commitment. We're going to get America First agenda through the Senate and to the American people.
You know, Trump's not afraid to weigh in on something. If he's got a view, he will weigh in. If he had a really strong view on who's going to be the Senate Majority Leader, he would have weighed in. So I'm with you. Seems like he has a sense any one of these folks could have gotten his agenda through. The big first thing is going to be these nominees for cabinet positions. I see a big battle coming for those, especially for some of the recent nominees, like our mutual friend, Secretary of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth.
Your best friend.
Best friend, a good friend of yours. Is Thune ready for that? Like, how do you see him handling that big job?
So one, Donald Trump got a commitment. Yes, we're going to push them through. When you have a 53-seat majority, if you can manage the Senate, manage your members, you're going to get them through. And I'm sure that all of them had a commitment to Donald Trump that they can make that happen. And knowing how the institution works, right, to help navigate those appointments to get confirmation is really important. Rick Scott, who I like them all a lot, but Rick Scott doesn't have the experience of leading the Senate, which is, and John Thune does, which is maybe what the senators, again, as they thought through this, they thought, you know what, I want the experience of the leadership as to maybe more the more conservative senator in this group.
It helped them.
Yeah, but you know, John Thune is not going to be Mitch McConnell, okay? Mitch McConnell was, along with Paul Ryan, did their very best to undermine Trump, okay, and protect the Bush Republican Party, or the Bush Republicans, or the Never Trumpers. But the Never Trumpers are like fossils now. They're like archaic fossils. Maybe there's one or two or three in the Senate. But even if three senators oppose Hegseth or Matt Gaetz, you have J.D. Vance as the tie-breaking vote. So he's going to get through. Then you get the recess appointments, which President Obama did in 2014. But there was an issue of whether or not the Senate was truly in recess. That was the big problem. That's why his recess appointments were struck down by the Supreme Court. But if the Senate is truly in recess, it shouldn't be a problem.
That it was by secret ballot. So Donald Trump won't know.
You know, it's so funny when you talk about sort of the elephant in the room that, like, your childhood best friend is now up to be nominated for Secretary of Defense. This is unbelievable. It's so fun for our show. Who would have thought? I mean, how do you think about in my opinion, this feels a little bit different than 2016 in terms of like real adults in the room, in terms of these cabinet appointees, people who really want to hit the ground running, know how Washington works, but sort of outsiders at the same time. Does this sort of feel like that big moment where real adults are here and they're ready to go?
So in 2016, there was a lot of really smart people that didn't want to come into the Trump administration. This time, you have some of the best people, smartest people, and loyal to the agenda that Donald Trump ran on that want to serve. Pete Hegseth is one of them. What I love about Pete's nomination, though, is the fact that
So I think that was Sean Duffy and Pete Hegseth as kids. Pretty interesting.
liberal media is completely underestimating him. They're, Fox and Friends weekend co-host. He's not much to be reckoned with. And Pete very well. You could lay it out in great detail, but really well informed. He comes across as if he's just having a good time and off the cuff, and he's more prepared than anybody when he's doing that. Really well organized, and he has a vision to actually change the course of the military, which is important to all of us because that is our first line of defense against those who hate us, our enemies.
A lot of people are over Lloyd Austin, over the debacle in Afghanistan, over this sort of horrible policy that we've been facing. We were just showing live shots of Capitol Hill where Thune is expected to make some comments, but I want to rewind the tape a little because we had this historic meeting, Trump meeting with the GOP conference this morning, then making his way to the White House, talking to President Biden. We saw them in the Oval there with the roaring fire behind them. It was, Biden didn't really take the opportunity to go big and large there. It was very quick. I think they wanted it that way. Donald Trump, very gracious. Your thoughts?
You mentioned the fire. I think the staffers thought this meeting is going to be so cold. We need a little fire to heat this meeting up. And I love, this is truly a Donald Trump moment. He loves to meet with his supporters, those who have been on his side through the campaign. So he met with Joe Biden, who really was helpful in the course. I mean, the garbage comment truly was I don't know if it was a turning moment, but it was a moment to go, this is what,
maybe a slight unintentional supporter there, but maybe. But yes.
But here, again, Joe Biden said all the right words. He was a gracious host to Donald Trump, and maybe obviously more gracious than Donald Trump was to him. But the words are cheap. When you look at the Democrats are preparing for political battle, not just in.
Well, Biden was gracious, number one, because Democrats literally removed him from contention. Okay, that's why Joe Biden wore that color dress. She wore a red dress, a Make America Great Again red dress. Okay, that's not by accident. That's obvious. They were removed from contention. They had a presidential campaign. Biden won his primary. And of course, the Democrats with Bernie Sanders, they cheated Bernie Sanders. They did 10 billion times worse to Biden. But again, these are the authoritarians that complain about Trump being an authoritarian. How much more despotic and totalitarian can you be than removing a man who literally won his primary? We still don't know. I don't think that George Clooney or Biden's press secretary, I don't know exactly why they removed Biden. What was it? What was the diagnosis or the assessment? What exactly did he do other than look like a deer in the headlights during the debate, which is what we knew he was all about for the past 4 years? What did this poor man do to deserve being removed? He should have simply kept up the charade. They could have come closer in the popular vote. I don't understand. What did this man do so wrong other than, try to imprison his direct political rival with Trump under the guise of Trump breaking laws? And Trump is a two-term president. Nobody cared. Everybody knew that Democrats were vicious when it comes to politics, trying to set him up and frame him to the very last second. But I don't understand what Biden did. Why did they remove him? I don't get it. I thought he was the most popular candidate of all time. By the way, what happened to those numbers, the national numbers? We'll just leave it at that. I'm sure nothing that wasn't above board. Far be it from me to even insinuate something less than legal happening years back. Of course not. Everything was perfect. By the way, what happened to 10 million?
in the state governors. You can do that. They should be opposed and can be opposed to Donald Trump. And the House and the Senate Democrats will be the same. My concern is the deep state in all these agencies that should be working to accomplish the agenda of the duly elected president. They're going to be working against that agenda. And I think Joe Biden and Barack Obama are the keys to that. So you can say what you want, but it would mean a lot if you told all of your supporters, Joe Biden, in government to go, you know what, this is your president. Follow the lead that won him a mandate from the American people.
I don't see that happening.
Nor do I.
Well, I think the deep state is the progressive left's secret weapon. Yeah. Even if they're not holding formal power.
It was, but it's not anymore. Okay, these are government positions and government. So all those text messages and emails and communication to set up and frame Trump, they still exist. They're like, oh, well, we these phones had a monthly reset. It was complete. Oh, they were wiped clean. Oh, goodness. It was complete. They literally did this, and they said it was just a normal, update on the phone. Oh, God, the updates, those problematic updates. The updates happen to remove all the communication between those agents and government officials involved in trying to imprison Trump. That's bizarre. How did that happen? But John Radcliffe is head of the Central Intelligence. And then you have likely a new person at National Security, and then definitely a new person at the Federal Bureau. You don't think there's record of everything? Of course there is. If you worked for like Hertz Rent-A-Car and you did something on the phone they gave you, there's a record of that no matter what you did to the phone.
All of those folks fill those positions, and they can either oppose if they don't like the president, or they can go to town beneath the surface, and America doesn't even know what's happening, which is why this Department of Government Efficiency, the crowbar to kind of uproot that, is so important.
Well, first of all, no one elected them, right? And they have all of this power over us. I think what's interesting, any money that's spent, 99% of us might think this money is a waste, but there's a constituency around money being spent. There's a group of people who get money from it, or industry that gets money from the government, and they fight like tooth and nail to make sure that the money never goes away. Elon Musk has the credibility with the American people to go, you know what, this is waste. We're going to call it out, and we're going to start slashing and burning money that doesn't help any of you. I look at these budgets and I'm like, we should have like gold-plated roads and bridges and airports, and it's garbage, and we spent trillions of dollars on this stuff. Where does the money go?
I don't think it's lost on any of us that the Department of Government Efficiency is called Doge, and Dogecoin is up 150% since the election, which also folds us into a quick conversation about Bitcoin, 93,000. What do you make?
For the love of God, it's on fire. Thank you, Donald Trump. I used to have Doge, and I don't have it any longer. But yeah, isn't that amazing?
I know.
This meme coin rocking. But listen, I think again, when Donald Trump commits to going, we're going to have clear regulation, and America's going to be a home for crypto. The market responds, and you have this massive rally. Again,
Well, I respectfully say that I don't think cryptocurrencies long term. If you look at what Charlie Munger and you look at what Warren Buffett have said about cryptocurrencies, I think there are major issues. But I do think that, unfortunately, not because of Trump, unfortunately, there will be a market crash in the stock market and in the crypto market. I do think that with Trump, we'll rebound quickly. Okay, unlike what would have taken place with Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Elon Musk and the top advisor, I'm not sure that they actually fought or had a heated debate. I think that it's a way to find out who's leaking information. I think it's a pretty interesting likelihood that there was no debate. CNN reporting this is actually helping Trump. I think that after 8 years, Trump, Elon Musk, the advisors, I think everybody knows how to find any informant, how to deal with media, how to kind of utilize the negative media reports to their favor. And I think this is just simply a way to find out who the informant was. Hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're almost at 270,000 subs. We'll get to 300,000 soon. I'll be doing 2-3 live streams a day very soon. And ladies and gentlemen, I love you. To my super chat, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Be here tomorrow. We're waiting on the next top appointment, which will be probably the most one of the most important he nominates. And I'll be front and center there. Please remember this channel. And oh, by the way, hit the notification. Hit notify me during every live stream that's up so you can get notified for sure.